Hey guys, it's John here from Sonic Drive Studio. So today we're going to do a comparison of 3 amp modelers, and we're going to be focusing on emulations of the BE100 amp by Friedman. I've gotten a lot of requests for a Friedman comparison, so I hope you enjoy it. We're going to compare Line 6 Helix Native to the Axe-Fx III and also to Thermionik by Kazrock, which is a cool and affordable platform but lesser known than the Line 6 and Fractal devices. Now let's make this a friendly comparison. Each of these platforms is awesome, and each one has features that make the platform unique in its own way. It's not about having a war between the platforms, but it's about comparing some of the tonal characteristics and just having some fun. Let's give peace a chance, okay? Because I believe all of these platforms are great and they can live together in harmony. As a bonus, at the end of the video, we'll get to find out if the big enemies, the Axe-Fx and the Helix, can live together in the same mix. I'm doing this in my own way, just as with previous videos, so you'll hear the guitars in the mix, but this time also soloed, and in some cases the tones have been tweaked slightly differently in order to get a good overall sound. I am, however, using the exact same IR for each one. I'm using an IR from the upcoming Ownhammer 412 F-Men pack that's coming out soon, which is going to be based on a Friedman 4x12. The file that I'm using is the OH412 F-Men Mix Ownhammer 1 from the Quick Start folder. The mix option is basically an exclusive file to the 412 F-Men 6-pack, and it's a blend between different speaker types. It sounds very awesome. For everyone that's been waiting for the pack, we're very sorry that it's taking so long, but it's a lot of work to put such a great pack together. But in the end, it will definitely be worth the wait. I feel like this is one of the best all-round 412 cabinets I've ever tried, and I especially love all the different speaker options and mix options that this pack has to offer. So stay tuned for the release, it won't be long. And also note that I'm using the same reverb on each tone, and it's the Verb Suite Classics plugin by Slate and Liquid Sonics. Now let's get to business. First we're going to listen to the Helix in the full mix. I'm using the Placider Dirty amp model, and it's based on a BE100 by Friedman. So that's perfect. Let's take a listen. Yeah, that sounds great. I really love how that sounds. It has balls, it has definition, it has a nice distortion characteristic, and a great overall EQ curve. I'll show you the settings in a moment, but first, let's take a listen to the Axe-Fx version. And for the Axe-Fx, I'm using the HBE amp model, not the V1 or V2 version, just the regular HBE amp, which is based on the exact same amp as the Helix version. Here we go. I also really love that one. It sounds pretty close, to be honest, but I think that the Axe-Fx version has a little bit more bite so far. So a tad more string definition, so to speak. Then let's go to the final amp modeler platform, which is Thermionik. And I'm using an amp model which is also based on the BE100 by Friedman. So all of these amp models are based on the same amp. Not the exact same specimen, of course, but the same amp model, the real-life amp. Okay, let's go ahead and listen. Alright, so I think that one also sounds pretty awesome. It's not the same as the other two. I think there's a little bit less definition, a little bit less string definition. It's a bit more soggy sounding and a bit more round sounding, but it still sounds pretty darn nice. Now let's take a listen to each platform, but without the drums and bass, so you can hear the guitars soloed on their own. Here we go. So in general, I think that it's very clear now that Thermionik has a bit more focus in the lower mid-range. So it sounds a bit more tubby, a little bit more muddy. The Axe-Fx is a little bit brighter and it has a lot of string definition, so it cuts very well. And the Helix has very nice mids overall. So if this was a match or a fight, which one would be the winner? I don't know. I mean, I really dig the Helix tone. And I also really dig the Axe-Fx tone. Thermionik sounds great too, but it's not as good as the other two in my honest opinion. But maybe your opinion is different, so please let me know in the comments. Now let's take a look at the settings that I used for each platform real quick. So I'm doing a bit of automation here, and it's basically turning down the drive on the B section. And it's also turning up the dry-wet control on the reverb, so the second section is a bit more wet, so to speak. And in the signal chain, we're starting off with Helix Native. And I'm only using the amp block here with the placid or dirty amp again. Drive is set to 5.5, but the automation is set so that the drive is turned down quite a bit in the B section. I think in that section it goes down to about 2. Well, here you can see the basic settings. So the bass is set to 5, mids are dialed down a little bit. Treble has been raised to 7.1 and presence has also been raised to 8. Master volume is set to 5. HBE mode is on. Fat switch is off. The C45 control is set to on. And I've also done that with the other platforms just to kind of match these settings. Saturation is off as well. Then for the IR loading, I'm using Ignite Amps' Nadir plugin again. And here's the Ownhammer mix that I just mentioned. The 412 Fman Mix Ownhammer 1 file from the Quick Start folder. And then the Verb Suite Classics plugin for a little bit of room. Now, processing-wise, for each of these platforms, I didn't want to do a whole lot, but I did the usual. I added the virtual tape machines by Slate. I also added the virtual console collection and the virtual channel in this case. And I added the FGS, which is based on an SSL EQ. And I only use that for cutting the lows or filtering the lows under about 90 Hertz for each platform. So these settings are the same for each platform. But in case of the Helix, I'm cutting out a little bit of mids at around 400 Hertz just to kind of get rid of some of the boxiness that's going on. And the trimmer here was used to just get the levels right between the platforms. So not a whole lot of post-processing going on. Let's listen to this platform one more time. First, I'll play you a little bit with all the instruments on, and then I'll play them soloed again. Here we go. So yeah, I'm a huge fan of Helix, and I use Helix Native all the time because it sounds awesome and the workflow is just great. One of the advantages that Helix Native has over the Axe-Fx is the fact that you can automate all sorts of parameters and that you can kind of reamp in real time. So you don't have to run it back into the hardware and back into your DAW again. So that's cool. Plus it has its own unique sound going on. It just sounds different than the Axe-Fx. So yeah. Awesome. Then let's do the same for the Axe-Fx. I'll show you the settings that I used in Axe-Edit 3 here. So we're starting off the chain with the filter block, and I'm using this to emulate the C45 switch on the HB100 amp, or the BE100 amp, I should say. And I read on the forum, as suggested by Cliff, the founder of Fractal Audio, that this is the correct way to emulate that particular switch. There is an amp model in the Axe-Fx with the C45 option, but it's the BE amp model and not the HBE amp model. So that's why I did it this way. Okay, as you can see here, we have the Friedman HB100 amp selected, and these are the settings. Now they're not that different from the Helix Native settings actually. I matched them quite closely, but not exactly the same. So the presence is set a little bit lower than on Helix, so it's set to 7.8 approximately. Treble is set to about 7. Mids are turned to, let's say 4.4. And bass is set to 5.5-ish. So that's all that I'm doing here. And of course, in the cab block, I'm using the same IR again. And that's all for the settings of the Axe-Fx. And as far as the processing goes, same chain as before, only I'm cutting less of those boxy mids, only about half a dB. The filter settings are exactly the same. Now I'll play the track again with and without the drums and bass. Here we go. Yeah, this platform sounds very good as well. Like I said before, it has a bit more string definition and a bit more bite, so it sounds a little bit more gritty, but the difference isn't huge at all. And we should also take into consideration that different actual amps were used for the modeling. So those amps probably have slight tonal variations as well. So far both platforms sound really killer. Now let's check out the settings for Thermionik quickly. I'm using 2 instances of this plugin because the automation wouldn't allow me to change the gain. So one is for the A portion of the song and one is for the B section. The only thing that's different between the two is the gain settings. So as you can see, I enabled the C45 switch again, and these are the basic amp settings. In this case, I had to turn on the bright switch, just to give it a bit more definition. Same IR settings as with the Helix, and then processing wise, exactly the same chain as before, but I'm cutting out a bit more mids, about -7 dBs of around 300 Hertz, because this platform is just a bit more muddy and tubby sounding overall. It doesn't mean that you can't get great results with Thermionik. Sometimes it just needs a bit more tender love and care and a bit more effort to get there. But it's definitely a cool platform to check out, and it's very affordable. Now let's listen to Thermionik once again with the drums in and out. Here we go. In case you were wondering, the guitar that I used was my Line 6 JTV 59, which is basically a sort of a Les Paul with PAF type pickups. And I used the passive pickups on that guitar, so not the Variax modeling. And if you like the song, there's going to be a full playthrough video of this song on my channel very soon. Stay tuned for that. Please let me know in the comments which of the platforms you preferred and which you liked the least. Let's keep it friendly and positive, folks. Each of these platforms is very cool in its own right. We're just having a little bit of fun here. To end this video, I'm going to play you the full clip, but in this case, Helix will be on the left side and the Axe-Fx will be on the right side. Will a war erupt between the two, or will they be able to live together in harmony, in peace? We'll see. Thank you so much for watching. Drop a comment in the comment section below. Please hit subscribe and follow us on facebook.com/SonicDriveStudio. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day. Cheers.